Hey y'all, I'm Lita from SciAnts, and I'm back for more SciFi Science, where we dig something out of the sci fi archives and talk about the science behind it. And today we're talking about the Meg. Alright, TLDR, human meddling leads to a giant prehistoric shark being released into our modern day oceans, and predictable mayhem ensues. So, settle in, grab some popcorn, because we have wild marine ecosystems, Jason Statham, and extinct sharks to talk about. If that synopsis didn't sound familiar, don't worry about it. I have you covered. You don't need to have seen the Meg to follow along and enjoy some Megalodon science. We're going to pick up from the beginning where we learn about the ecosystem that has been keeping this giant shark hidden from the modern world, which includes some amazing marine biology. But if you want to get straight into Megalodon, you can jump ahead to this timestamp. Otherwise, let's get into it. We start with the head scientists conveniently explaining to us the purpose of their research station.
We've all believed the Mariana Trench was the deepest place on Earth. I've had a theory that what we think is the bottom might actually be a layer of hydrogen sulfide. Beneath that cloud and the freezing cold thermal climate, there could be a completely new world.
Look at that, under 20 seconds and the stage is set, but let's do some quick fact checking. The Mariana Trench is a real place found in the western Pacific Ocean along the boundary of two tectonic plates. One end of the trench is Challenger Deep, the deepest place on Earth and almost 11 kilometers below sea level. Very few people have been down to explore this area, but it does have a solid floor. I mean, we've touched it. James Cameron literally drove on the bottom of Challenger Deep, and if you don't believe me, there's a whole movie about it. Honestly, when you get that far down, there's not much other than rock and some weird bacteria if you're lucky. From what we can tell, animals just don't live that deep in the ocean. It's not just that it's cold and dark because there are ways around those things, but the pressure is staggering. The weight of 7 miles of water is pressing down on you. That's 8 tons per square inch. Anything living down there would need some extreme adaptations just to keep their cells from collapsing. The researchers are using some very sophisticated submersibles to make their way past the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Can you imagine IRL how embarrassing that would have been for Nat Geo if James Cameron had just floated through the ocean floor when he went to touch down? We have hydrothermal vents, folks. All right, let me explain why I'm so excited. Hydrothermal vents are places on the bottom of the ocean where water comes into contact with magma. This creates a jet of superheated water shooting out of the ocean floor. The chemicals released during this process serve as an energy source, which results in complex ecosystems immediately surrounding these vents in an area that's otherwise pretty sparsely inhabited. In fact, we think thermal vents were probably where life originated on Earth. To make things even more interesting, in 2023, researchers reported finding a new ecosystem in caves below the ocean crust around these vents. Now, the caves weren't big enough to support large animals, but it goes to show how much we don't know about these areas and how amazing they are. The movie is at least offering an explanation for why there's a layer of warm water down at the bottom of the ocean and how such a thriving ecosystem could exist. And I like that hydrothermal vents get at least a fleeting moment of fame because they totally deserve it. As they're exploring this new habitat, they are lighting it up like they are afraid of a monster under their bed. There are lights everywhere, and this turns out to not be a great idea.
Was that?
No one should be surprised that in ecosystems like this, things are going to be a little light sensitive. Light is not great at traveling through water, so by the time you're 1 kilometer down into the ocean, there's virtually no sunlight. But these darker parts of the ocean are not completely without light because in these regions, the animals make their own light using a chemical reaction that we call bioluminescence. Bioluminescence is used for a lot of important things in this part of the ocean, like mating, luring in prey, or even defense. But regardless of what it's being used for, in this region, light is almost always going to be associated with life, and it wouldn't be surprising that bright lights, like what we saw from those submersibles, would pique the interest of an apex predator. So something big is down there with that bite-sized submarine.
There is something down here. Something just hit my ship.
What's happening?
It's a huge squid. It's got the glider. Capsule reach in 5 seconds. It's a shark. It's like 25 meters.
It's Megalodon.
Impossible.
That's right, Megalodon has arrived, and we know that because Jason Statham said so. So what do we know about Megalodon, and why is Jason Statham's character so sure that that's what they've encountered? Megalodon was hands down the biggest shark to ever swim our oceans. There are other megatooth sharks that make modern white sharks look pocket-sized, but they went extinct long before Megalodon did, and from what we can tell, none came close to matching its size. Now, to make things a bit more confusing, Megalodon goes by several scientific names, the most common being Ototus megalodon and Carcharocles megalodon, but we're just going to call it by its species name, Megalodon. Everything we know about Megalodon is based on fossils, which complicates things because shark skeletons are made out of cartilage. They don't preserve well, making shark skeletal fossils extremely rare. On the other hand, their teeth do preserve well, and sharks, unlike humans, are constantly losing and replacing their teeth throughout their lifetime, which leads scientists with an abundance of teeth but not much else. In the case of Megalodon, a few vertebrae have been recovered in addition to teeth, and that's it. That's what scientists have to go on. But there's a surprising amount of information you can get from teeth if you have enough of them. By studying modern-day sharks, scientists have been able to estimate Megalodon's size with an outer range of 20 meters. But because we don't actually have a complete skeleton, we can't say for sure exactly how big it could get. In the movie, they tell us their Megalodon is 20 to 25 meters, which is a bit outside the current predicted size range. But you need to remember that in this fictional world, Megalodon has had 3.5 million years to evolve. And under the right environmental conditions, that could be enough time to see an increase in body size. Around this point, you might be wondering how our massive prehistoric shark is going to make its way up to the surface. And I'm so glad you asked.
When the glider came up, the thermocline was intact, so it was 1 degree Celsius, right?
Yeah.
But a minute later, when the evolution came up, the temperature increased by 25 degrees. A shark could come right through there. 20 sharks, for that matter.
When the Meg hit the origin, it slammed into a thermal vent.
Those can release millions of gallons per minute. The heat from that vent cleared the path through the freezing cold layer.
Are you saying we opened up a superhighway for giant sharks?
Not exactly. It seems like it was a transitory event. The temperatures are returned to normal and the gap is closed.
Yeah, but not before a massive prehistoric killer machine decided to come up and say hi.
Okay, there we have it. Transient shark superhighway. Now Megalodon can properly wreak havoc on the larger marine ecosystem. Megalodon was cruising around our oceans about 20 million years ago and completely disappears from the fossil record 3.6 million years ago. Its disappearance coincides with some big environmental shifts. In addition to changes in sea level and temperature, the marine ecosystem was transforming. Megalodon's food source started to disappear, and at the same time, there was a rise in smaller ocean predators like the white shark. It's believed that some combination of these things is what led to Megalodon's extinction. Now, the movie does acknowledge the fossil history and offers an explanation for how Megalodon vanished from the record without actually going extinct. The thermocline kept the deep ocean ecosystem separate from ours, and presumably that kept more modern-day megalodon remains from finding their way into human hands. We've talked about when megalodon lived, but let's take a quick detour to talk about where it lived. Based on the fossils, megalodon had a nearly worldwide distribution, though it was most abundant in coastal waters, and there's absolutely no evidence of it being a deep ocean shark. Like I said before, living in the deep ocean requires special adaptations. The Greenland shark is an amazing modern-day deep ocean shark and lives at a depth of around 2 kilometers. But to do this, it has special molecules that stabilize its proteins, allowing it to withstand the extreme pressure. And so yes, there are deep-water sharks, but going from living in the shallow coastal waters to the deep ocean would not be a trivial transition. So far, so good, right? Well, buckle up, because this is where things start to go a little off the rails.
Yes! The poison is in!
Okay, SciAnts, hang in there.
I'm trapped! I'm in its mouth!
That cage will not break.
That's the problem! The cage is being swallowed!
This is bonkers, y'all. We have left shark territory and just gone full rage monster. In the name of science, I demand a quick pause. We are finally starting to get a good look at this megalodon, and it seems just to be a scaled-up white shark. Its body proportions and the shape of its dorsal fin are more or less consistent with this, and that's pretty reasonable. Because we don't have a Meg skeleton, we have to look to its relatives to get a sense of what it looked like and how it behaved. Megalodon doesn't have any direct descendants alive today, but it is a mackerel shark from the order Lamniformes, which makes it a close relative to the white shark and the shortfin mako. Traditionally, it has been depicted as a white shark, but recently some scientists have suggested Megalodon is more closely related to the mako shark and would have had a long, slender body shape, though this is still being debated. So passing grade on Megalodon's appearance, but we start to get into some serious trouble when it comes to how this shark is behaving. Sharks like the white and mako are incredibly smart animals. They are not the mindlessly aggressive garbage cans of the ocean, as this Megalodon appears to be in this scene. And while it's true that from time to time people have found some odd things in a shark's stomach, they are incredibly strategic hunters. If a shark is interested in something outside of its regular diet, it will take a curiosity nibble, a bite to see if something is edible. That's what most human attacks are, an initial bite. And then the shark realizes that we're made of Twinkies and Red Bull and doesn't come back for another taste. Sharks are not indiscriminately attacking things or trying to swallow whole something that would most certainly clog up its digestive system like a giant unbreakable cage. And Megalodon especially is unlikely to have this feeding behavior because the shape of its teeth suggest it would feed by chomping sections out of its dead or incapacitated prey rather than swallowing large prey whole. All right, they killed the Meg by injecting it with a large dose of a powerful sedative.
We did what people always do. Discover and then destroy.
This is true.
Well, I'm glad someone said it. There is a second Meg! The first Meg was just a little snack-sized megalodon. I know, spoilers. But what about those crazy out-of-water acrobatics? White sharks have some serious hustle with a top speed of 35 miles an hour, but the shortfin mako takes the cake amongst all modern-day sharks, clocking in at over 40 miles an hour. Now, estimating how fast the megalodon would be able to swim is difficult. A lot would depend on its body shape and water resistance, but it must have been capable of bursts of speed given the kind of predator it was. Many modern-day sharks are able to breach, meaning they launch themselves out of the water, usually when attacking prey that's up near the surface. The short-fin mako is especially well known for its out-of-water acrobatics, so it is entirely possible that Megalodon was able to do this as well, though it was probably pretty uncommon given how much energy these kinds of maneuvers require. When it comes to feeding, we don't just have to look at modern-day sharks for insight about Megalodon. We actually know a fair bit about what and how Megalodon hunted, because while sharks don't fossilize well, their prey does. There are fossils of ancient baleen whales with Megalodon bite marks in them, and even Megalodon teeth still embedded in whale bone. Based on these fossils, scientists think Megalodon had different feeding strategies depending on what it was hunting. One strategy was to incapacitate its prey before biting chunks out of it. It would do this either by ramming it or strategically targeting fins and tails, leaving its prey either stunned or physically unable to swim away. But again, sharks are sophisticated and it would have had more than one way of hunting. There are other fossils that indicate Megalodon would sometimes just bite directly through the chest cavity of its prey, puncturing its lungs and heart. All evidence suggests that it was a powerful and crafty hunter and not an animal I would want to mess with. It just wouldn't be a proper shark action movie if Megalodon didn't make its way to a crowded beach. This trope just seems to tickle our collective anxiety about our place in the marine food chain. But let's be honest with ourselves for a moment. We're just not that cool or interesting. Mature sharks have no desire to be hanging out with us humans. As a species, we're stinky and loud. We're a rowdy group. We junk up the place with our sunblock and our garbage. It's exceedingly uncommon for a large adult shark to seek out human-occupied beaches for feeding purposes. That being said, there was a recent study that showed juvenile white sharks spend a lot more time near humans than we previously thought. It seems that we like some of the same beaches, but when we do share waters with them, they appear to mostly ignore us. And we do know that most shark bites occur when someone is in the water alone or in a small group. It's really very rare for it to happen in a densely populated beach. So not at all like this business here. After torpedoes didn't take down the Meg, Jason Statham's character pretty much gets in a fist fight with it. This is a crazy amount of sharks and a bunch of different species. I know we're supposed to believe that they were attracted to the Meg's blood, but I've got to tell you, if chumming the waters brought out sharks this quickly, we would have some far more relaxed and well-rested shark scientists. But many sharks are opportunistic feeders, and cannibalism is a pretty common behavior. So would they feed on a larger wounded or dead shark? Probably. I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the Meg. It got quite a few things right. Some aspects of the shark science were on point, and they at least tried to explain why Megalodon disappeared from the fossil record. I know a lot of you tuned in hoping I would say that Megalodon is still alive today somewhere in the deep ocean. To address this, I'm going to invoke two of my favorite doctors. Everything is possible, but extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And right now, there's just no credible evidence that Megalodon is around today. But that shouldn't take away from how cool it is that this species once swam through our oceans. We still have amazing sharks on this planet, and as we study our oceans more, we continue to find new species. In 2023, a new deep-water shark was discovered. Only 20% of our oceans have been explored. There are so many things for us to learn about and discover. It just probably does not involve finding a live Megalodon. So let's make sure we're funding basic research and find out what the heck is down in our oceans. If you know which doctors I quoted, please let me know in the comments. That's it for today. I hope you stop back in for more Sci-Fi Science with SciAnts. But before you go, if you liked this video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. You can also hang out with me live on Twitch for more content like this. Thank you to all of our supporters. If you would like to be one of those amazing people that supports free, science-based content, please check out the SciAnts Ko-fi, and because I always have receipts, you can find the references in the description below. Thanks for watching.